Hello my friends, my name is Travis and you're watching Dev Tips. This is the 5th hour in a video series I call Design and Code My Personal Website in 12 Hours. Last week we spent a good amount of time making sure that our project was exactly the way we wanted it. So check out those videos if we missed them. We talk about gulp, about file structures, and we talk about clearing out any templates to be exactly the way that we want to use them. Today we're going to pick up just where we left off and we're going to build the header for the site. If you remember our visual design, it's that white bar going down the left side of the design. Now that's not a sidebar, that's actually the header, and I'll show you how. To end our last video, we just pushed up all our code to GitHub, and that's exactly where we're picking up now. This is my GitHub application, and you can see that there's no changes been made since then. I'm going to right click on the name of the project in GitHub and say open in Atom. Because GitHub application and Atom text editor are both made by GitHub company, they kind of like work well together. Also, we're going to need our terminal, so let me just open that up. And the first thing we can do is just cd into our project file, which is a cd desktop design and code. And now that we're in the project file, remember we can just use gulp and it'll set up the browser sync and everything and the server by typing gulp. Great. Now the tasks are running and we're going to see a browser just pop up right here. Alright, this is where we left off last time. And the last thing I need to open is my Photoshop document so I can have the visual design right with me as I'm making choices in the code. Alright, I've got everything I need to start working, so let's talk about what we're actually going to do today. Today I want to focus on the header, which is this white bar here on the side, and also on the grid that we'll be using in each of these sections. It's a 2-column grid. Let me open up the guides here. So this 2-column grid, and there's a few ways that it kind of comes about and displays itself, but what I want to do is focus first on this navigation, this header actually over here, and then after that's done we can focus on the grid. So hopefully we have enough time, if we work quickly on this header, we can get to the grid today, and this will all be one video. If not, it might be 2 videos. I'm not sure yet, haven't done it yet. Okay, so let's get started. What is in the header? In our project files, remember that I like to use these Jade files here that become includes. Right now I have a hello.jade. Let's change that to we'll change that to header.jade. And we have to make sure that on the let's see, on the index file that we're not including hello anymore, we're including header. Okay, save. And then header.jade, let's see what so in our file here, in the design, we have a few elements in the header. We have the logo, we have this white bar that's kind of like the background, that's the whole container of it, that's the actual header, and we have this navigation. And I think I have there was an email link at the bottom. Anyway, so let's jump to this, actually let's put this all in a header tag, and we'll indent it in, and we'll say h1-logo. I want to put the logo in the h1, and for the logo we'll type out Travis Nielsen. And so let's get this graphic here. I have this graphic in an Illustrator file as a vector. So now this file is open in Illustrator. It is a vector, as you can see here. And that's exactly what we want, because we want to export this as an SVG so that it can be infinitely scalable and have a nice crisp lines on it no matter what display monitor you're looking at. A high density display like your phone or a MacBook Pro or whatever. I don't have one of those, but or a regular old 72 DPI like I have here. So the first thing I want to do is go into my artboards actually. So I'll hit Shift O to get the artboard tool, and then for the artboard sizing I'll go to custom and I'll just say fit to artwork bounds. And what this will do, let me make this artboard a little bit bigger. What this will do is it will just trim up that artboard so it's nice and tight on the actual graphic art, and you don't have loose edges around the art. So that way you can be more controlling over the boundaries of the graphic. So now that we've cinched up the artboard as tight as it can be to the actual art, I'll press Command-Shift-S for to save it, and I'll change the Illustrator file save type to SVG. And then I'll desktop, find my project, go to Assets, Images, and I'll put logo-tn.svg. Okay, so we have enter. We've saved this TN logo as an SVG into my images file. That's exactly what I want, so I can close this out. So I'm going to use this H1 here as the place where the logo is going to be, and I'm going to replace that text with the actual background image of the logo. But for right now, let's just continue on and kind of outline the DOM as we want to have it a little bit more. So we have this here, this navigation, and it's just going to be a UL with a bunch of LIs and links inside of it. So let's put that down below here as nav, and then UL, and then LI, and then A, anchor, ref, caps lock, ref equals, like this would be or hash about, because it's going to be scrolling within the page, and then in the text of it, it's going to be about. Copy this, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think, of these. All right, so the next ones are YouTube, mentoring, articles, Vine, design, notes, contact. And we want to have that same stuff over here. Okay, let's save that and see what happens. Okay, so the browser has automatically refreshed because we have browser sync happening. We have the H1, which is the logo right here, and then an unordered list with our navigation items. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. Also, I want to put in down here another item, and I'll nest it inside the header, and it'll just be an anchor tag. And it'll actually be just a quick mail to. Emailing, and then I'll just say plus email me. Okay, cool. Get rid of the tree there. And that's all we need right now for the markup in the header. But what we need to do is style this stuff first. So let's go into the document tree, and we want to create a new file in the CSS modules. So I'll just highlight it and press Command-Shift-P and say add file. Okay, we want to call this header.sass. And then in the main.scss, we want to have an import statement that says import to-modules header. Save. Okay, so header. What needs to be in the header? I want to have the header is this strip here on the left. That is the header, and so we need to constrict this width. I think the width is 135. Let's make sure. Yep, it's just 135 pixels wide. So we'll say header width is 135 pixels. Background is white. Check that out. Got a white background and 135 pixels. Looks good. And I want to put some padding on the top because I don't want this logo going right up to the edge of it. I don't want this link going right up to the edge of it. So I'll say padding on the top and bottom is going to be about 30 pixels, and then 0 pixels on the right and the left. Let's get rid of this text here, and we'll do put the actual graphic in there for the logo. So what was it called? Logo was the class of logo. First thing I want to do is plus hide text. Now this is a bourbon mix-in that will just kind of get rid of the text. See, it's gone. And then we want to use this space as a place to put that the logo that we just saved as an SVG. Okay, let's say background image URL, and we have to do the path to the SVG. So it's assets images logo-tn.svg. That's it right there. And then we want to see how it's repeating here. It's just kind of like repeat, no dash repeat, and then position, center. Center, if you put center only once, not center center, it'll center top and bottom. And then we want to have the size something called contain, which means that it will grow to be as tall or as wide as it can, whichever one comes first. I just want to see the dimensions of this, so I'll say color pink. Okay, so do you see what I said about the height? If I make this height here like 80 pixels, see how the logo itself will grow too to match the height of the box. But if I grow it to 200 pixels, see how the logo stops being tall as 200 and starts being only as wide as 135, which is the max width of the container, because that's the max width of the parent. So that's what background size contain does. We can get rid of height 200 pixels. I think let's just put it at 80. That looks like a good size. Alright, and because it's a logo, which is an H1 element, it has default padding and stuff, so let's take all that off. Padding 0, margin 0, and it should shrink up. There we go. Okay, so now we just have the 30 pixels of the header on the top, then the logo, and then the navigation. So everything's a little bit more tight right now, and we can start applying dimensions to things as needed. Now I just realized that we put header as an element tag, but you know there's going to be header elements in other pages. So we want to scope this header to be a little bit more specific to the home page. How do we do that? Let's go to index and we'll put a class around like everything that's going to be on this page. Home-wrap. Now, because we have that, we could say .home-wrap space header. Now this is going to be only the header on the home page, and I like that a lot more. In addition to that, we have this element, this navigation element. I don't want it to be only I don't want this, when I select it with CSS, I don't want it to be all of the navigations ever used on any page. I just want it to be a home navigation that's very specific down the left-hand side. I don't want that to be on every page as well. So what I want to do is take that and say it's just the site nav. Put an extra class on that, so that when I go into my CSS, I can say .site nav and call it by its class, not by its element name, so it won't get confused later on. So for site nav, I want to target the UL inside of it, and I'll say list style none. And then that'll take away those bullet points. We also need to take away the margin and padding. I do want margin on the top though. So say margin 20 pixels on the top, left and right 0. Good. And the padding should be 0. Good. Let's text align these all to the right. And then give them back a little bit of that padding. So I want it to be 0, 20 pixels on the right, bottom, left, 0. There we go. Now that 20 pixels is lining up really nice right here with that logo, and that makes me a happy guy. I can get rid of that pink though. Cool. So we need to identify the list items with inside the UL and just give them some margin. Bottom 20? No, 10. Yeah. And we'll say list item and the last child, margin bottom will be 0. So these all have margin on the bottom, but this one doesn't. That's what I wanted. All right, now for this email link, it's right here, .email-link. I need, because it's an anchor tag right now. It's just a regular anchor tag, which means that it doesn't have any. It's a inline item, right? So we need to change it to display block to get it full width, and then we can text align right. Oops, text align right. There we go, and then we want to give it that same padding right of 20. Yep. Okay, so now it's a little bit more. It's separate from the first group, but it's aligned with their styles. There's a situation that I want to have here. I want to have it as 2 columns, right and left. And in order to do that, I want to use Flexbox. And now I have a bunch of sections that are going to be on the right, There's going to be the about, and the to YouTube, mentoring, and so forth. So I need to have a div wrapping around all of those sections. And I'll call that div home sections. And inside of that home sections wrap, I'll just put a placeholder div that will emulate all of these, very tall sections. It's like, what is it, like 2,000 pixels tall for our design here. So we'll say div style. This is just a temporary block to kind of like pace out our dimensions. Height equals 1,000 pixels. Okay, so now we have some scrolling going on. Let's make it 2,000 just so we can see what's up. Okay, now we can scroll here because the height of this dimension right below it, there's a div right here which is 2,000 pixels tall. But we want to have these divs as columns. So let's go into, we need to make a new file actually. Go into our layouts and say new file and call it home.sas, and then into our, what is it called, main? Yeah. And create a new import for that. Layouts. So why am I using layouts instead of modules? Because at this point we're talking about the structure of the page, not an element or an object or a module of elements within the layout. So we're focusing on the overall structure. So I want to use a layout template for that, and we're going to call this one home. All right, so that is good. What's good? That's good. Index, home sections. So it goes home wrap, include header, home sections, and then these are all the sections right here. Okay, so where does the Flex parent need to be? It needs to be on home wrap. So let's go into home and we'll say home wrap display Flex, and the min height, we don't even need min height, we know it's going to be tall, but we'll just put min height on there. Min height 100 VH. Okay, so now we see that the what's this thing called? The navigation here, or the no, it's called the header. So now we see that the header here on the left has a full height, but it's not the height of the browser, it's the height of the elements in the column to the right, which are all of those sections. So the more sections we put on there, like the taller this thing gets. And that can be a problem because look at this design. I want to have the logo up here, and then in the middle, the visual middle of the viewport, the navigation items, and then at the bottom I'll have that email me link. So how I would do that is I would go into header.sass and say in the header I want these three elements to be display Flex, and then I want them not to be a display you know, what is it called? The direction to be a row. Oh, it's Flex direction. I want it to be columns. And then I want them to be spaced out like, what is it called? Justify. Space between. Okay. And that worked. That worked exactly how I wanted it to do. Email at the bottom, navigation in the middle, and then at the top, the logo. But the problem is it's proportionate to the HTML structure. It's proportionate to the DOM. So the more sections I have here on the right, the more spread out this navigation is going to be. And you know, that doesn't even make sense if you show up to this browser and you can't see the navigation because they're like way down the page. So what I have to do is I have to orient this navigation to the viewport, not to the structure, not to this Flex columns. So how I'm going to do that is I'll go back into header file and I'll just put another element in here called class header position, and then I'll nest everything under that. Now in the header.sass, I'll take this Flex here and put that in header position and nest everything under that. Okay, now the header position file in my Sass, that's what I'm going to orient to the height of the viewport. And I'll do that by saying position, not absolute, position fixed. And then let's say top, 0, left, 0, and bottom, 0. That was unexpected. Now I'm wondering, why did it jump out into the middle of the road? I was expecting it to be contained by its parent here. That is very, very odd. Okay, well, let's just put that width on it there. So right here. That was very strange. I did not expect that to happen. But we got it though. Look at where our scroll bar is scrolling and our header is fixed. It's not moving around, and it's always going to be oriented to the height of the viewport. So if I scrunch my viewport up like this, it's going to be all up in here, while my page can scroll up and down as tall as it is, as much as it needs. But now our remember we had the 30 pixels of padding here at the top right here with our header. That's gone because fixed position ignores that stuff, and I said top 0, so it's saying top 0 for the viewport. So I want to say top 30 for the viewport and bottom 30 pixels for the viewport, and that should fix us up just fine. Yep, look at that. Okay, that's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. In the next part of this hour, we're going to make that header and navigation responsive. If you want to be notified when that video is available to you, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And before we close, let's give a quick shout out to the patrons of this channel. Their generosity and encouragement make all these videos possible. And they enjoy certain perks. For example, they watched this video 3 days ago. Isn't that something? If you'd like to learn more about that, visit patreon.com/devtips. All right, my name is Travis. I'll see you soon for hour 5.2 in this video series. And until then, keep on hacking.